Okay, today we're going to put together a worm bin, and the materials I'm using today, I have coco coir, eggshells, ground eggshells. I'm going to toss in a toilet paper roll. I have my bin, and this is bedding from a previous bin, or I should say these are worm castings, finished castings. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is break up this coco coir. And how much you use depends on how big your bin is. Now you don't have to use coco coir, this is just what I'm using. You can use just straight the soil that's in your garden. I purchased this a few years ago, and so I just want to use it up, so that's what I'm using today. And now that that's broken into pieces, we're going to add water. And coco coir doubles in size when you add water. Add more water. And now I'm just going to let this sit and absorb the water. We'll be right back. Okay, that's pretty well absorbed. Let's check it. So you want your mix to be the consistency of a wrung out sponge. And see, that's a bit too wet. So about like this. That's how I like to keep mine. So it is still a bit wet, but I'm going to mix it anyway, and all that excess liquid will drain out. So I'm adding in some of my old bedding, which is worm castings. You see how dark that is? Those are worm castings. I'm just going to add more back into this new bedding. And the big specks you see, those are eggshells. And I'm actually going to add a few more eggshells. You could add sand, but this actually provides some grit to help the worms digest the food. And then I'm just going to mix all that in. I'm going to add a few more eggshells. A few more castings. Now you don't have to put castings in it. It's just I don't want to put garden soil, so I'm just using some of my old bedding to add into this. Now when I first started my bin, I started with coco coir. I added some shredded newspaper, and then I added about a handful or two of some soil from my backyard. Okay, we got that all mixed in. I actually went ahead and added all of the eggshells that you saw in that little container because I won't need them for anything else and I wanted to use them up. So now that that's all mixed, we're gonna put it in our bin. Okay, so this is my worm bin. It's actually 15 quarts, and you can see it's 2 bins. You want to get 2 bins because you will at some point have liquid that falls through the bottom. You don't want that liquid sitting in your bin because it'll drown your worms out. Put holes at the bottom. You want to put holes in your lid to give the worms airflow. And because I was keeping this in the house, I covered the top with some screening mesh to keep the gnats out of it. So now we're going to add our bedding that we mixed earlier. And there we go. And now it's ready for worms. You put your worms on top. You don't have to dig a hole or anything. You just place them on top. And then I like to put a piece of cardboard. And you want to make sure it's the cardboard that has the ridges in it. Just place that on top to help keep the moisture in. Close it up and then store it away. When it's time to feed your worms, you'll open the bin, you'll dig a hole. I'm tossing in a toilet paper roll. It's just a way to use them up and divert a little bit of trash from the landfill. And then I'm tossing in a paper towel and some sweet potato peelings. So whatever you're putting in there, dig a little hole, and then you want to cover it up, and that'll keep the flies down. So a few notes about the bin: you don't want to put dairy in here, you don't want to put meat, you don't want to put bones in here. Stick with like vegetables. You could put pasta as long as it doesn't have lots of pasta, pasta sauce or oil. I mostly put vegetable scraps. I put potato peelings, bananas, banana peels, things like that. Toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls. I put in paper towels as long as they aren't really soiled paper towels. Those are good to put in here. Then you want to put your covering back on. You don't have to use cardboard. You can use newspaper. You actually don't have to use anything at all if you don't want to. Put your lid back on, and then you're done. You'll know when to feed them again. It depends on how many worms you have. It could take a week, it could take 2 weeks. It's a bit of trial and error when you first start out. I almost forgot to mention. So you can see through the bottom of my bin. Worms don't like sunlight. So my solution, I have some cloth, and I just wrap the cloth around the bottom. If you were putting this in the ground, you wouldn't have to do that. But because I have this in the house, I need to cover it to keep the light out. And so see, that'll keep the light out of there. It's really fast to do, really simple. I put this bin together. Could do it in 15 minutes. I hope you'll give it a try.